Well, that sucked.
Yeah, no doubt.
Uh, as Mark Stoops would say, I'm Nick Roush, a dead man, as you can tell. You can see this bag of bones here. I am reporting to you live from the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Adam Luckett is in Neyland Stadium, where he got to witness firsthand that absolute thrashing by the Kentucky Wildcats at the hands of the Tennessee Volunteers. It was like it. Even in our wildest dreams, it was going to be tough to knock off this Tennessee team, but the Wildcats, the effort was worse than expected. The mistakes were at the most critical junctures, and man, Kentucky, the Cats really laid an egg in a primetime spot. And deflating is the only word I can come up with to accurately describe what just happened. I don't know if you have a better one. You had to sit through that suckfest at Neyland Stadium, a garbage truck workers convention. It was, I don't know how you did it, buddy, but you deserve a Purple Heart for going through that.
Kentucky is a sloppy football team. We played 8 games. They're sloppy. Special teams is terrible. Kicking game is terrible. They can't block. They can't snap. Holds have been an issue. So that's the beginning. Offensively, pre-snap penalties again, Nick, were a big issue. Can't protect in obvious passing downs. You're playing a top 10 run defense, Nick, and it's not a run defense that has just got a dominant front. Tennessee plays downhill. They play with numbers. They were rolling 9 into the box against Kentucky. Kentucky runs on early downs. You know, you would think pass on early downs to get them loosened up. That's not what Kentucky went to. It just felt like it was a bad game plan, like they played right into Tennessee's hands on offense. And then defensively, we knew the challenge they had going into this game. It was going to be tough. They needed complementary football. They needed offense, kicking game to play a role and to help them and to put them in good situations. They didn't. We can talk about the 2 coverage busts. That can't happen, again, especially against Jalen Hyatt, the best receiver in college football at this point of the season. That can't happen. But overall, the defense, what are they supposed to do? You know, they're starting on their side of the 50 5 times, Nick. 5 times. I mean, against the best offense in college football. What are you supposed to do for them? I feel bad for the defense because they're not getting any help from the other 2 phases. And the offense, Nick, let's talk about this here. They've had 3 big window games. They've got a first-round quarterback, some believe maybe could be the number 1 pick. They've got an all-SEC running back who, if it wasn't for a suspension, would have broke the all-time program rushing record this year. They've got one of the best receiver cores they've ever had. They have a deep tight end room. They can't score points. In these 3 big window games, Ole Miss, Florida, Tennessee, they're scoring 14.7 offensive points per game. Neither of these defense, Nick, none of them rank inside the top 20 in SP Plus's adjusted rankings. Ole Miss is the highest at 24, and some people don't believe that Ole Miss defense is any good. You got to be better. What? This is what it is. And it's unacceptable. It's really unacceptable that they're at this point that they cannot score. This coaching staff inherited a top 25 offense and had the quarterback back, had the tailback back, and it had all these other weapons and had receivers you could believe in. And now, this is what we're seeing. They haven't scored more than 31 points in a game this year.
Yeah, it's bad.
Why? What? I mean,
And it's not all execution either. Execution plays part of it.
Yeah,
Tavion Robinson,
right.
You get guys like him to make plays like he could have made on that 3rd and 10, right? He adjusts in midair and then he doesn't look the ball. He catches that. He's probably housing that or at least gaining 40, 50 yards, right? There's an explosive opportunity, just miss. But the other huge turning point in this game, despite that gaffe, right? They have 2 3-and-outs in their first 3 possessions. Kentucky's marching again. They can score a touchdown to make it a 1-score game with 3 minutes to go in the first half. They get the ball back to start the second. If you get a stop, you're within reach, right? It's still a ball.
Yeah.
Kentucky gets inside the red zone, and it's where Rich Scangarello has been at his worst, right? Liam Cohen did a lot of things to transform that offense last year. They improved on 3rd down, and they improved in the red zone. They went from ranking in the hundreds to ranking in the top 20 in both statistical categories. Kentucky gets in the red zone this year, and you're kind of holding your breath that they'll even be able to kick a field goal, and it happened again. You had your you give the ball to Chris Rodriguez on first and second down. The entire time, I'm telling my dad, who's sitting in the living room with me, press coverage for Dane Key. Why don't you let him beat him, right? Press coverage for Dane Key. Try to let him beat him. First and second down, they're predictable. Run, run. Tennessee goes into his zone. They throw it to Dane Key on third down. What does he do? He gets split in half. Ball goes right into Tennessee Volunteers' hands. They go 40 yards down the sideline. Even despite that, Luckett, Cats got to stop. They got the ball back. And what do? They run the ball for first down. They somehow get it out of the shadow of their own goalposts in their own end zone. And instead of just running it out, they start throwing screens. You have an incompletion. Barry Brown runs it out of bounds. You don't even make Tennessee burn their own timeouts. And then they have enough time for Jalen Hyde to get loose again or another coverage bust. It's 27-6 and the game's over before halftime. I just don't. There was just so many times where I had no idea what was going on in between Rich Gangarello's ears. Like it made no sense to me. And once that there was a shock to the system, then Will Levis completely became unraveled. 3 and out, interception to start the second half. A complete disaster where they were playing the number 130th ranked pass defense and got 98 yards against a guy who's going to be a first-round draft pick at quarterback. I don't care how many insults you want to throw his way. That dude's might be the first quarterback taken. It was a complete and utter all systems failure by Rich Cangarello and his offense. I don't know what you can say to defend it because it's indefensible against the Tennessee defense that, like you said, like it isn't some sort of world beater.
They took the Mississippi State game plan and didn't change it. They tried to do the same thing today. The only problem is Mississippi State's run defense was bad entering that matchup, and Tennessee's run defense is top 10 caliber in the country. And they try to and they know they have offensive line issues. I don't understand. And you talk about on that red zone drive, Nick, again, they get past, they got run heavy. Rodriguez rips off a 15-yard run to start the drive. They go to McClain, 2 yards. They finally get a first down and they throw it to Dingle, get 12 yards. But then first down run to Rodriguez, 3 yards. You have to get saved by a QB sneak for Levis. And so you get the sneak, you get the conversion ball at the 15. Seems like a good time to potentially pass it here.
Yeah, and then
3-yard run with Rodriguez, 0-yard gain with Rodriguez. So then you're in 3rd and 7, right there, and you just kind of put your team in a bad spot. I just don't think that they had a good offensive game plan coming in, and they had to play complementary football here, Nick, and they just didn't. And this was a huge stage here. There was no getting around it. It was a big moment.
Having Kirk Herbstreit on the call too, he's so awesome, and it was so disheartening that all of his great analysis was just at all the mistakes Kentucky was making on both sides of the football.
And you had a huge opportunity here, and it's the 3rd big window you've been in, and you're playing your rival who's having this great season. You've got a chance in a sandwich game or in a look-ahead spot to maybe get them, and you just played awful. You played the worst game of the season, and offensively, it was just a cluster, you know what? And it was just so bad. It's
well,
it shouldn't be this bad. Why is it this bad? Why did last year? Now, obviously, they had a lot better offensive line last year, but they should be able to, with Levis and the skill talent they have, to come out with a game plan early to have success, to catch defenses where they know they're going to play certain ways and to attack them in their opening scripts. Why are they coming out in these games and having no success? Why are they coming out and it looks like absolute crap to start these games?
It's so bad. It was 3 and out. Tennessee had the ball just like that. And then to make matters worse too, the special teams. It's just how are you getting PATs blocked? Why is this still a thing? This is a very basic concept that you should be able to do in middle school. You snap, you hold, you kick, it's good. It's not that difficult. And then you almost had another punt block with just somebody running free. And
a Kentucky kid insult the injury on that. Caleb Perry with the punt block.
God, it's so bad. And we're going to be able to beat this drum all week. But the worst part is you mentioned it about these big opportunities, right? And going into the season, you knew that Kentucky, in these big opportunities, right, the Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee, they had a chance to do something special. You beat what turned out to be just an average at best Florida team. You handled them, and then you fell flat in the other spots. You just fell flat, And as much as I hated writing the whole well, you can still go 8-4. The team we thought they could be, they at least wouldn't fall flat, and they wouldn't make the kind of mistakes they've made to this point that have led to the losses because of the talent at the skill positions. And we're probably no matter what happens, even if they do win 3 of their last 4, which is very possible, they're going to be favored against Missouri, Louisville, and Vanderbilt. Even if they win those 8-4 and go to play in Tampa in a bowl game, you're still going to feel like you wasted generational skill talent on the offensive side of the ball. It just shouldn't be this bad, Luckett. It shouldn't be this bad.
Yeah, I think there's 4 games left in the regular season. Like, this is, I hate to say it this, but this is kind of like now or never. Prove it, right? Like, if it remains this bad, Nick, and we look up and this offense is they're scoring 23 points per game right now. That is unacceptable with what they have.
Yeah.
If you look up and this is what it is, like, you're going to have, like, a hard decision is going to have to be made, you know? Like, you cannot, like, what makes you think running it back in year 2 and replacing some of these key pieces makes you think it's going to be any better next year? I mean, I hate to say that, but it's got to be, it cannot be this bad. It cannot be this bad.
Well,
Tennessee is a top 40-ish defense, Nick. Top 40-ish. Yeah. And they just, they look like, you know, Kirby Smart's Georgia defense last year.
Look like the 85 Bears, man. They were doing the Super Bowl shuffle.
Like, why it should not be this hard. I don't understand why it's this hard.
Yeah. And why guys aren't getting schemed to get easy receptions, right? Like everybody and their brother knew Wan'Dale Robinson was getting the ball last year, and he would still get open. I am not a smart person all of the time, but that's even the most common football Frank can look at that and say, why just aren't any of these guys open? Why is it that Levis has to throw a perfect pass or else it's going to be an interception?
Tim Banks is a good defensive coordinator. They're not going through a murderer's row of schemers on the other side of the field they're playing. Like, they're not seeing, you know, it's not Josh Heupel over there on defense, right? It's not like the greatest that they're seeing scheme-wise.
Arnett was probably the best scheme guy, and that was when they played their best.
I don't why is it this hard? Why can't they get easy throws? Why is it nothing easy with this offense? I know the offensive line is an issue. It's a huge issue. But you have to scheme around your deficiencies. Specifically early in the game, you should be having more success than they're having. Like, you should be able to come up with a plan. All right, this is what we can do well to negate your weaknesses and take advantage of the defense's weaknesses. They're not doing that at all.
It's disappointing. But like I said earlier, Kentucky should be favored in 3 of its last 4 games. Obviously, nothing's a given. We've seen them lay an egg before. But also, when they laid an egg at South Carolina, they bounced back against Mississippi State. I will say the injury to DeAndre Square is concerning, although De'Aaron Jackson did end up with 14 tackles, despite having to play a lot in space. Chris Rodriguez, not really sure. I have a feeling he'll be able to muster, up whatever.
Tyrell Asian too.
Yeah, I mean that's tough. You're banged up. You're going into a sleepy Columbia, Missouri. But to your point, like a lot of this stuff you can get over with this will look nobody was picking Kentucky to beat Tennessee in the preseason, right? You can get past a lot of this bad ugliness in hindsight if you end on a positive note, which you should. By the way, the schedule's setting up aside from Georgia.
The offense just got to be a lot better. Like, it's got to figure if they're going out, Nick, and they're grinding out wins 17-13, 20-12, the lots are still going to be there. I think rightfully. I think our Twitter mentions were a lot tonight, and I think people are upset, and I think they're rightfully upset. That's really the story of these. Like to me, it's a 4-game stint here. Like, we've got to see real progress from the offense here moving forward. And no matter what happens, Nick, this is just a season when they left a lot of meat on the bone. They had real opportunities here against Ole Miss, and then the South Carolina loss was brutal at home, and then to get beat by Tennessee like this in a spot where you should have really had your A game in a haymaker ready for Tennessee. You should have been able You should have been able to hang in there and push them in the fourth quarter, and you weren't. And you let them have a practice out there for most of the game in the second half. It's just very disappointing. And you got a window right here. You got 3 windows right here, Nick, and you didn't take advantage of these opportunities. Kentucky's had to work very hard to get games in like these big ESPN windows. They're usually stuck on SEC Network. These when you talk about like perception and in the offseason, people, why are people sleeping on Kentucky football? Well, when you're in big time, prime time here, when people are watching, that's where those thoughts and takes come from. The people are going to remember, they played Tennessee and got, their teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
They blew a game at Ole Miss because they pre-snap penalty. Like, it just they just wasted opportunities this year, and that's the most disappointing part. And we talked about, Nick, like this offense had top 10 potential in the offseason. I said that in the offseason. I really do think they did, but now the offensive line was a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. But they're just not getting enough from their talent. They should be getting more, and that is the biggest concern for this offense.
It's stuff that will keep
nothing is easy. Why is nothing coming easy for this group? Why does it seem so damn difficult?
Yeah, it's tough. It's it'll keep you up at night. It's painful. But some of your pains is by checking out our friends Port Royal Plants. PortRoyalPlants.com has all your bluegrass made Kentucky proud CBD, all organic. Check them out. Whether you're getting the balm, the Epsom salt, or maybe even some of their organic bug spray while you're out and about trick-or-treating coming up. I know there's plenty of haunts, plenty of frights following the Kentucky football program right now. It's difficult to – where do you go? Just win. Just win. Put this in the rearview mirror. I do worry that this loss may linger because Will Levis just really looked not like himself. And it shouldn't be that way. It should not be as bad as it was. It should not be as bad as it was. And I don't know how much you got to go back to work, just look at the film before they start losing faith. It's hard to keep the faith. If they can show some character and bounce back, like kudos to them. But that's much easier said than done, especially when the defense, I forgot what game it was. Like it was the South Carolina game where the dam just kind of let go in the second half.
That's what you have to worry about. That's my biggest worry now.
Because losses like this can be demoralizing to an entire team, especially when one unit is leaving the other one out to dry.
Like the defense is going into games now knowing like the offense can only score 14 points and change.
Yeah.
In these big games, it puts a lot of pressure. And it's not. You can't there's going to be a lot of scheme talk, Nick, about can Kentucky run a pro-style offense and all this. You can run – I'm a firm believer, there's a lot of ways to do this. You can run these offenses. I don't think it's crazy, but you have to be able to take advantage of defense's weaknesses. You have to make things easy. You can't just be super, super hard all the time. And for Kentucky, it's just seeming super, super hard to do what they're doing. If it's this hard – how do we think it's going to get any better? They've got a senior quarterback over there. And it's this hard.
Yeah. Got to fix it.
Like this. Like if the offense is this hard, and we heard how complicated this offense was all offseason, right? Like in spring camp, fall camp, it's a hard offense to learn. Hard offense to learn. If it's that hard, you don't need to be running it. Some people are able to score points, and you can run a plethora of systems in this sport. Name of the game is putting the ball in the end zone, scoring more points than the other team. W in the column, not an L.
Texas A&M fans can relate to that.
Yeah,
right.
You can't be like this. But you gotta be able to score points. And if it's too hard, too difficult, something needs to change.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot to marinate on.
Right.
Hopefully, we marinate on with some cold beverages. It's a tough night for Kentucky fans, especially those that made the trip to Knoxville. Rocky Top is the worst.
We went a little long here, Nick.
I know.
But I think it was warranted.
It was. Especially, we're going to be throwing you a curveball. We're not going to have a live podcast during trick-or-treating, but we will be back for the KSR Football Podcast Monday afternoon. So keep it locked for more on the KSR YouTube channel. Enjoy your adult beverages tonight, and hopefully you have more tricks or no, more treats than tricks
Yes.
coming up this Halloween. Oh, and that Kentucky can hopefully, fingers crossed, get it together against Eli Dorkowitz next week in the Show Me State. Until next time, so long from Adam Luckett and Nick Roush. This has been Rapid Reaction with KSR.